Hey everybody, welcome to No Plan, No Problem, a weekly D&D advice podcast where two Dungeon Masters take a mythical quest to try and come up with 3 actionable tips for you to use in your next game. I'm your Dungeon Master, Anto.
And I'm your other Dungeon Master, Matthew Perkins, except I'm covered in gold.
You can find my stuff across the internet at icarus-games.co.uk.
And you can find all my stuff over at matthewperkins.net. Now, Anto, today we're going to be talking about gold.
Gold!
Beautiful gold. Gold is currency in Dungeons and Dragons. Now, it's not the only currency, because there's also those kind of crappier coins. You got your copper, you got your silver, you got your electrum. I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
I've never played a game where someone uses Electrum, like...
I think that if you use electrum at a pub, you will get thrown out.
Yeah.
But there's also platinum. But this episode is going to be all about problems and questions around wealth and what it really means in Dungeons and Dragons. Because what does it mean? So, Anto, who's the adventurer that's going to help us with our first tip today?
So, the adventurer helping us with our first tip, and if I go ahead, I can show the people at home this, is going to be Struck by Awe over on the r/D&D subreddit. And their question is questions about starting gold. I've seen a few different ways of doing starting gold for a level 1 medium magic campaign, but I want to get multiple opinions to get a general consensus. Anyone have a good amount of experience with buying starting equipment instead of having starting gold and the equipment options in the class page? So basically what they want to know is, do you do starting gold or starting equipment?
Yeah. I just quickly want to address the fact that this person is called Struck by Awe, and we're talking about gold.
Yeah.
This is fun. So do you do starting gold or starting equipment? Because the rule in the player's handbook, as I understand it, is that when you choose your class, it gives you some options where you can choose. Do you want a short bow or do you want some short swords? Do you want leather armor or do you want this other kind of something, right? You get to make some choices. And you can either do that and choose the equipment, or you can get allocated some funds from your dungeon daddy, and and you can use those funds to go to like the shopping section of the book and just buy stuff.
Yeah.
I think that I prefer not to buy stuff
Oh,
because
really?
because it seems like a little bit of bookkeeping to do right at the start, and I get bogged down in character creation. I don't enjoy character creation mechanically.
Yeah.
Which one do you do?
I always run with starting equipment for the sake of ease, or I have done for the last couple of games and for the majority of characters that we've played with in the last couple of games. But I know when I first started playing, we always used to do, you get an amount of gold and you buy your stuff. In the years gone by, that's always how we did it, and we always ended up with a really eclectic mix of starting equipment. I think that's one of the benefits of going the starting gold route and buying what you want is everyone has different stuff and you don't all necessarily end up with the same stuff.
Well, here's my question. Do you find that because I've only done the starting equipment. That's what I've done from day dot. I woke up, I was born, and I said, I'm going to choose starting equipment. Get that gold away from me, mother.
Yeah.
I choose
Naturally.
my equipment. Now, did you find that when you were buying equipment rather than choosing starting equipment, were there big gaps in what you had? Because I presume that the starting equipment is kind of a little bit more well-rounded, so that you're not going to have.
Yeah.
We don't have rope. You're not going to be a Samwise Gamgee and not have any rope or something. Yeah.
So when you do it with gold, you end up, based on your class, you get an amount of gold that is randomized to a degree. So you get a number of D4 times 10, or if you're the monk, you just get 5D4 gold. So you don't have a lot of money to spend most of the time if you choose to take the gold option. Some of your backgrounds are going to give you a little bit of extra gold, like a pouch for 10 or 15 gold, which can give you a bit of a boost. But I do think that choosing the gold route, what I find has tended to happen is that players use almost all their gold on 1 or 2 big items. So they go, right, this means I can get a bigger axe or better armor, or I can get a premium item that I wouldn't have otherwise got, and then I'm just going to ignore everything else, and I'm just going to hope that the charity of strangers keeps me from starving to death.
And you kind of end up being like one of those musicians, they're couch surfing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I got my guitar, man. This is worth $3,000. I
Yeah,
haven't eaten in 4 days.
exactly. Like they're just going from tavern to tavern, paying like pennies for the soup of the day, which is little more than just hot water. But they're carrying
Mm.
around, like wearing the shiniest baubles and carrying the biggest axes.
Well, I like that. I like that sentiment
Hmm.
because what you're telling me is this character and this player character, so this player, they have some kind of sentimental attachment
Yeah,
to an item that they've spent all their starting gold on. I sold the family boat to buy this, I don't know, sword. This
yeah,
sword. Um, and I like that idea because that's someone going, oh, what does my character care about? They care about this sword. But I achieve the same effect in a different kind of way because
okay,
whenever I get people to do starting equipment where they just choose from the options,
yeah,
they always go, oh, I can only choose between two daggers or a bow. I kind of wanted my character to have a rapier.
yeah,
And I go, okay, oh, you're telling me that you have a vision of your character and what
yeah,
they do and what they look like? Yes, if you can justify your character having that, cool. So starting equipment wise, I like characters to come already equipped with the things that make them themselves,
yeah,
the things that make them fit the shape that the player has drawn of that character. I want my character to have two hand crossbows. Cool, that's fine. The
yeah,
rules for hand crossbows are fine. You're not breaking the game by having them at level one. I don't care. You can have them if that's who your character is.
yeah.
What do you think of that?
I like that a lot because I think that there's for some dungeon masters there's a hesitance to be like, okay, I'm going to give you more because they're worried that it's going to somehow break it. But like with your example of two hand crossbows, once you've got the two hand crossbows, yeah, it might be that the rules assume that you're not going to do that kind of damage output for another couple levels.
Hmm.
But once you've got it, you can't go really above that. So
Yeah.
you if anything, the player gets better earlier, but then spends a longer period of time where they're not progressing in that sense. But
Mm.
anytime a player says, I have an idea, I want to do everything I can to facilitate that idea because players don't have ideas very often.
Do you reckon I could try and like boil this into a tip? Would that be all right?
Do it. Go for it.
With starting equipment,
Mm-hmm.
the action economy is going to protect a lot of the balance. It
Yep.
might shift a little bit this way, a little bit that way, but characters can only do so much in a turn.
Mm-hmm.
You can't necessarily give your characters anything that they're going to start with that's going to ruin your game, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the tip is to don't fret too much about mundane items as starting equipment. You can give them pretty much whatever they want within reason that fits the shape of their characters.
Yeah.
The only exception is magic items. Then we're getting
Yes.
into Crazy Town, baby. Welcome to Crazy
Yeah.
Town. Magic items ahoy.
And I had that problem in my last campaign because
Mm,
we'd been playing off and on for a few years and never had a campaign that stuck. So when I started running that game, I fully expected this won't last. We're going to play for a couple months and then it's going to fizzle out. So I was
yeah.
really heavy handed with magic items right at the start. I was like, okay, we're starting at level 3. Everybody gets a magic item straight away. And very quickly, you're going to start coming into a lot of magic items because I didn't think it'd go the distance. So I wanted them to have that fun right up front.
Hmm.
As it happened, it ran for 3 years and they were tooled up like assault machines.
Yeah. And that's beautiful. You tried to run a campaign like Keith Richards, burning hot and fast,
Yeah,
but then you accidentally lived like Keith Richards. Hey,
exactly.
we should roll for sponsorship. Do you have the button?
I have the button. Let's see if this works.
Do it.
There, the button does that and it makes a sound. And now we are in the sponsor section.
Oh, we're in the sponsor section. The difference is I can't hear the sounds that you play. Hey, you might not realize this if you're listening to the podcast version. We're actually filming this live. If you go to the bloody YouTube channel, you can see footage of us
You can see our
chatting.
face, like right
You can
now.
see you can see my hideous face. Ugh, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I don't know
Bring
what happened
back
to
the
me there.
disco vampire.
But hey, this is the sponsorship section of the town where we are going to say that we have a Patreon. And if you
Yes.
want to support the podcast, we do have some costs, right? We have some costs that we need to cover, and fan support is the best way to help us cover those costs. On the Patreon, you can get access to a pre-show. It's the show where we kind of warm up, we just talk, we have a bit of banter. It's quite fun. And we do these every time we record. And there's also some fun little handouts and playable content. Hey, Anto, where should people listen to us? Where do you think people should listen to us if they want to listen to the podcast?
If you want to listen to the podcast, you can find us across the internet. The best places are going to be Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you're listening on the Apple platform, which I always forget what the actual name for it is, I think it is
Me
Apple
too.
Podcasts,
Yeah,
right? If you're listening there, then we thrive off those juicy 5-star reviews. If you can leave
yeah,
us those 5-star reviews with comments, then that is what fuels us. And I think it's every time we get 20 of those, we're going to be
20.
releasing some of our previously exclusive Patreon content to everybody. So it's in everybody's best interests, if you enjoy the podcast, to drop those 5-star reviews over on the Apple podcast platform, whose name I can never remember.
I just realized that like what we're promising is saying every time we get 20 reviews on Apple Podcasts, we will rob our patrons.
Well, no, I
Hey,
think it's, rewarding everybody.
everyone's patron for a day. Come on
Yeah.
down. Okay, now how do we escape this sponsorship dimension?
I will click the button again, and then that'll immediately take us out of this sponsorship dimension, and we'll be in a brand new section, I think.
Free me.
And then we're in a brand new section, and it's time to look for another tip. So I am going to go ahead here and fire up
Ooh,
the old machine.
the old machine. I actually know where we're heading. We're actually heading into Statstown.
We're heading into Stats Down.
We're heading to
Well,
Statstown. Statstown is a segment where you and I try to just try to come up with stats or some playable content. We try and riff on it, and we're going to kind of riff around gold. What do you want to talk about gold today? What do you want to Statstown, Anto?
I think that we should probably think of gold is one of those things that gets talked about a lot in 5th edition specifically because people are like, oh, what do we spend our gold on? So I think we should come up with some alternate forms of currency, like what some interesting things we can do with a currency that isn't gold.
Okay. I have a good kind of like real world example, virtual real world example.
Okay.
Um, have you ever played the video game Diablo 2? Do you ever play
No.
D2? Okay, well, Diablo 2 is like an action RPG, and you kill enemies and you get gold, right?
Hmm.
But it's also multiplayer, like, and that you can trade with people from all across the world, and it's a looting kind of game. It
Yeah.
really cares about you getting out there and finding those magic items and trading, and there's an economy.
Hmm.
Gold is not the currency
Okay.
because gold is a currency. You kill any enemy, you get gold. There's so much gold that it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So the currency kind of evolved to be different things. Um, Sometimes the currency is measured in this particular magic item, you can trade this many of this magical item. And
Hmm.
there's kind of like a ratio of like this is this many of this.
Yeah.
And it's this barter system that over time solidified and got codified.
Hmm.
And people are trading runes instead of gold, and people
Yeah.
are trading gems instead of gold. Um, but there's also some kind of like tokenistic currencies where whenever you PK, you play a kill
Yeah.
another player, you get their ear. You know what I mean? And as
Yes.
a status symbol,
Yeah.
people's ears are kind of like, check this out. I killed this person. They're ranked 20th on the ladder, and I've got
Hmm.
their ear.
Oh, yes.
Pretty cool.
That's
So
very macabre, but I like that a lot.
it is.
I think
I
that
just want, I
that
just wanted to bring I just wanted to bring that up as like as an example of what I'm thinking of, I
yeah,
guess.
I think that it's a really good example because in 5th edition specifically, gold very much means almost nothing after a certain point.
Yeah.
And having that alternate economy can be a really good way to kind of reignite the bartering and the desire for things, for shiny things. And I
Mm.
think magic items specifically is a really good way to do that because I think 5th edition assumes a certain level of scarcity for magic items. So having a magic item based economy is a good way to go.
Yeah.
I think my favorite alternate currency though has got to be the soul coin from Descent into Avernus.
Oh, so
So
what does that explain? I don't know what it is.
in Hell, instead of
Okay.
having gold or another form of currency, they have soul coins, and these are
Hmm.
basically little magical vessels that you put a soul inside, and they contain the soul of a creature, and devils will trade them and barter with them and can use them. They can like consume the soul inside the coin to make themselves more powerful, or they can use it to kind of alter their magical casting abilities or power the war machines that they drive, those Mad Max style desert
Yeah,
roving war
yeah.
machines that they've got. Those are powered with soul coins. And
Okay.
I love the soul coin based economy in Avernus, and just the idea that every piece of currency that you could have a story behind it because there is a soul in there.
I like that idea. It's hey, that's some dark stuff.
Oh yeah, it's very dark.
Hey, you're bringing me down, but that's okay. Uh, I do like that idea though, but not necessarily because of the every coin is unique and has a story behind it. I like that idea because every coin isn't just used for trading.
Hmm.
It has like you can consume that
Yeah,
and get something out of it.
yeah,
Like
and
that's useful.
it's really fun in practice as well. I've given my current players a soul coin, and one of the players is an artificer. So the
Mm.
next day he built his kind of battle companion and put a coin slot on it and put the soul coin in it, and now the soul of the devil that's inside that coin has kind of possessed his companion, and he's got a little devil pig that follows him around.
Oh, that's really fun. In Australia, we have like really fancy currency. Everybody knows this. We actually have soul coins as part of our currency.
Yeah, yeah,
But
of course.
when you eat them, you just get constipated and die. That's not a
Common
good joke.
knowledge.
Um, well, are we envisioning a world where gold exists, but it's been kind of supplanted by another currency, or are we envisioning a world where gold was never currency and it
Hmm.
completely evolved around something else?
Oh, that's a good point. I think in a world without gold, then
Yeah.
if you don't have another form of currency, then it's going to be a bartering based kind of civilization, because that's all gold and any of the currencies are. It's a replacement for the things that used to
Yeah.
be traded and bartered. And it's saying, I will give you this, which you can use instead of the good that you want to trade to get more of something else. So if you have a society where there is no currency, presumably it will operate entirely based on bartering and trade, and I will give you X in exchange for
Mm.
Y.
That might get kind of cumbersome to run, though. You know?
Um, I think that it would be a very different experience, but I think that it could be really interesting because the onus then is put so much on the players to be like, right, you need this item. Well, you're going to have to go and find a shopkeeper that has this item, and then you have to have a conversation with them to establish how you're going to be able to pay for this. What are you willing to trade with them to get this thing? And it means that every kind of transactional interaction has that element of role play in it.
Mm. Um, I've got something, I think,
Hmm.
maybe. Going back to your soul coin thing, the soul, there's an ethical conundrum in that currency,
Yes.
right? In the real world, there is an ethical kind of conundrum when it comes to like energy stuff and
Yeah.
sustainability. And it's all tied to the idea of scarcity. And
Hmm.
that's why gold is a currency because it's scarce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so if we go, well, let's make a currency in this fantasy world that is scarce,
Hmm.
okay, and also has some kind of limited ethical conundrum to it. So
Yeah.
imagine the currency that's being traded, the actual physical coins, even if they are like coins or
Yeah.
sacks of powder. What if it is something that is actually causing some kind of ecological mess
Hmm.
or some kind of spiritual mess? Like, what
Yeah.
if every time people refine this material into the currency, this rare
Yeah.
material, it weakens the border between realms or something like
That's really
that?
cool. I like that a lot.
Or it does something with the plot. It
Mm.
does plot.
It's that I have incorporated a little bit of that into my current game. I have things called Sunat stones, which in
Okay.
my world, that is where magic comes from on the material plane. Magic was in like trapped inside these stones, and over millennia, the kind of mining and manufacture of these stones released it out into the air, for lack of a better word, and then people started becoming innately magic. And
Okay.
there are
Yeah.
still some of them knocking around, but every time you use them, you are using up a little bit of that magic that's left and diluting it. And there is kind of a scarcity thing with that. There aren't a million Sunat stones knocking around, and that's been
Yeah.
a lot of fun to kind of explore with the players.
In the business, we call that one doing a Final Fantasy VII. That's I don't know if you've played Final Fantasy
I
VII,
have
but that's
not, no.
okay. That's the plot. Spoilers, everybody. Okay. Do you want to try and can you pick something from what we've just talked about? Like, what's our tip? What's our second
I
tip here?
think that your point about creating a scarcity with your alternate currency is a really good thing to explore, because it means that the players have to do some work. And if you can
Yeah.
make the players work, then the game happens. You can sit back and just watch the game happen.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so that's our second tip.
Yeah,
Oh wow,
create scarcity with alternate currencies.
excellent. Hey, Stats Town never fails. We should call it Never Fail Town. Oh, that failed.
That failed. That did fail, but it's okay. We'll let you off. We
Hey, we have one. Oh, sorry.
no. I was going to say we've got one more tip to find, so let's go and find said tip.
Okay, good. We're too eager. So the adventurer helping us with our last tip is, oh my goodness, it's such a small font. It's from Reddit. That's all you get from that person. It's from Reddit. And they
A
ask
underscore I underscore R underscore S.
Oh, I like my version better. Pick regular names.
Pick regular names, yeah.
So George says, "What am I supposed to spend all my gold on?" And they ask that in RD&D. Anto, what am I supposed to spend all my gold on? How am I going to hold all this gold?
So this is something that comes up all the time, and I think most dungeon masters will come to this point of, oh, my players have got a whole bunch of gold. What are we supposed to do with it? Because the rules don't present a huge variety of things to spend your gold on. In terms of the mundane, there's not a lot of exciting and interesting things to buy. You know, if you're a fighter, once you get past plate mail, what do you need gold for? So a lot of people go magic items as kind of here's what we're gonna spend all our money on, but that's never been super interesting to me.
No. Well, look, there is a point where if you have a video game and you have a cheat code that gives you infinite resources, that game immediately sucks.
Yeah.
At least to me. Unless it's Roller Coaster Tycoon, in which case I'm sending fools all over the place. Shut me down now, cops. The thing with gold, when you have so much of it, eventually, like, you don't really care. You can buy whatever you want. Like, imagine you can buy that keep. You can buy all the magical items you want until the DM arbitrarily decides to go, no, you don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
But at lower levels, when you are starting to accrue that wealth, there are very tangible, useful things. So number one for me is spell components.
Yeah.
Because all the really useful combat spells have materials that cost money. For example, Revivify costs like $500.
Yeah.
$500. That's so much. Or like you need $100 to cast Identify, and it kind of goes up, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. Then there's gear, like you said, with the plate mail. That's a good use of your money. And then everything past then, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's one of those things that almost inevitably there always comes a point where the players have got more gold than they know what to do with.
Yeah.
And the way I'm currently handling it in my game is I'm just not giving them very much gold. They're like 8th level, and I don't think they've got a grand to scratch together between them. Because
do they care about gold? Are they motivated?
They do care about gold. Their main motivation at the moment is to find the lost city of gold because they want to be rich. But what I've been doing is I've been putting situations in front of them that kind of make them choose to spend their money on things that they don't necessarily want to spend their money on. So if one of the characters was possessed, so they went to a local temple to try and get them exorcised, and as part of that I was like, yeah, it's going to cost 1,000 gold, and that number was largely decided because I looked at how much gold they all had and I was like, they can afford that, but it's going to severely deplete them, so it's 1,000 gold. I don't think there's any benefit in saying, right, this thing that you really need to do is going to be 5 times the amount of money that you currently have, because how they're going to get that money, then that
Yeah,
closes that off to them. So I
yeah,
wanted it
absolutely.
to
And
be
if they
an
said,
amount that was affordable.
and if they said we are interested in this thing, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say, well, no, you
Yeah,
can't do. You don't
exactly.
have the money. You don't have
Exactly.
the money.
Like,
Um,
so kind of putting things in front of them to spend their money on that isn't necessarily where they want to spend their money, I found that that makes them much more appreciative of when they get gold. So, like last
yeah,
night, they're level 8, they got 300 gold, which is, when you're level 8, is very little, but they were very pleased about it because they get a lot less gold than they probably should be.
yeah. I I encounter a problem. This is like a side problem. With new players, I encounter a problem where someone goes, "Oh, we'll give you 50 gold to do this quest," and
Mm-hmm.
they go, is that a lot of money? How much money is that?
Yeah.
How much does a banana cost in this world?"
Yeah.
Um, and the way that I would always explain the way that gold kind of translates to real world is they say 1 gold is worth $100,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I say 1 silver is worth $10,
Yeah.
and 1 copper is worth $1. If your character wants to go buy a fantasy Coca Cola,
Yeah.
then it's going to cost $2 a can in Australia, so it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be 2 copper.
Yeah.
And using that kind of framework, I can work out what everything costs,
Yeah.
and then they can kind of go, okay, so when he goes, we're going to give you 50 gold for this doing this quest, he's going to pay us 5 grand.
Yeah.
Oh, this might be a dangerous job. Paying 5 grand to do something, is that danger pay? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
It's the economy of 5th edition, and I mean most editions and most games, to be fair. The economy is all over the place, which
Yeah,
makes it kind of figuring out how much should you be giving them in gold really difficult. And there's no real internal consistency between the price of almost anything, which makes
yeah,
the whole figuring out how much gold you need to give people, how much gold things cost, is really difficult. And it does create those situations where you say, oh, this person is offering you X amount, and the players are like, well, we have no concept
yeah,
of whether that's a good deal or not.
yeah. I think that gold matters in direct proportion to how much the party has.
Yeah,
And every party, no matter how good a DM you are, if the party has enough gold, then that gold doesn't mean anything.
yeah,
There's a series of books by that fellow Patrick Rothfuss. I forget what it's called, like the King Killer Chronicle.
mm.
He should have paid somebody. Great book, but he should have paid somebody else to name it. Um, but it has this really interesting focus in the book where it's continually focusing on how much money the character has,
yeah,
and there are whole chapters where it's like he has 1.5 gold pieces, and
yeah,
he needs to eat, he needs to get to class, he doesn't have any good shoes,
mm-hmm.
and the character is motivated by money.
Yeah,
And by making it a focus like that, it's a really interesting and unique story. And that seems like the same kind of thing that you're getting from limiting the amount of gold that your characters have. Are they frustrated? Are they
oh, yeah.
frustrated by
They're
having? Oh, okay.
100% they're frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that it works in their favor because it means that gold is always a motivator for them. So when recently they were trying to do a gauntlet, like do a dungeon and reach the top of this tower, and they'd hit a roadblock with the boss, and the boss said, I'll give you 50 grand to turn around. And they had to stop and seriously consider that. They didn't. They went on and tried to murder their way through. But that is an amount of money that made them stop in their tracks and go, do we
Yeah,
care enough about our current pursuit to carry on? Or are we going to, say yes to this and hope that we do actually get 50 grand out of it?
I love that. And here's the thing: if the party had 100 grand already,
Yeah,
they
that would
wouldn't
mean
care about
nothing.
that 50 grand.
Yeah.
Me personally, my morality, it has a price tag attached.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's there. I
Yeah.
just know it is.
They were going to the top of this tower again in pursuit of this lost city of gold. So there
Yeah.
is a point where a villain could offer them an amount of money that is going to mean that they functionally have as much money as if they'd gone and found a city of gold.
Mm-hmm.
And it really stopped them dead in their tracks, and they had to sit down and have a conversation about it, about whether or not they want to pursue their goals enough to turn their back on 50 grand.
Hmm. Well, the question was, what am I supposed to spend my gold on?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any idea? I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do. I'm putting you on the spot. What do you think? Like, what's the answer? What's our tip relating to this? What am I supposed to spend all my gold on?
I think that the best thing for players to spend their gold on is personal development stuff. So
Okay.
put things in the world that don't have necessarily huge mechanical benefits or get them things, but that allows them to spend their money. So if you've got a fighter, maybe put some kind of guild in the world that they can spend their money to be a member of, in which case they'll get new kind of quest hooks out of it. Or if they are a wizard, put something in the world for them to spend money on to get access to, like a mailing list of interest, like the hottest new spells, like little things like that that they can develop their own character with.
Yeah. Spend your gold on the story.
Yeah. Training montages, like, okay, if you want to increase one of your skills by one, you can spend 500 gold, and you'll go to a place, you'll spend a period of time doing training, you'll give the gold, and then you'll get a small buff for it.
Oh, can I add something to this? Because I think that one thing that you mentioned before means that I think we should add a little asterisk and say, like, the value of spending your gold is like the goal of spending it.
Yeah.
Like, if you just had $10,000, it's like, what can I spend this on? Oh, you can spend it to train it with this guy. Oh, cool. But if you flip it and go, I want to train with that guy, well, it's going to cost you 10,000 gold.
Yeah.
I want to get that gold so I can train with that guy.
Exactly.
Like, those are different paces, and I
Yeah.
think that the goal is very valuable there.
Yeah. I think that trying to put things in front of the players that they want to accomplish and then being like, right, okay, this is going to cost you. So, like, for a great example, I think, is the keep. A great classic example from old school D&D is the players go, oh, we want to run a castle. We go, okay, well, I'll introduce this castle in the story, and then be like, well, it's functionally useless at the minute. You're going to have to spend your gold to maintain it, upkeep it. Hook them with the thing, and then be like, but there's a cost.
Yeah. Look, this place isn't up to code. Oh, look, you're going to have to get this paint in. The washing machine cannot go there. That's going to cost you. I don't worry. I've got a mate who'll put this glass in for cheap. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Hey,
I would say
do you want to sign off the tips? I think we got to work this out.
So I would say the tip is to hook the players with a story element and then assign a gold value to allow them to achieve that.
Beautiful. What about, but we've had 3 tips.
We have had 3 tips.
Can you run me through the gauntlet?
I will run you through the gauntlet. Tip number 1 was don't fret too much about the mundane starting equipment. It's not going to matter that much. Tip number 2 was to create scarcity with your alternative currencies. And then tip 3 was to hook them with the story elements and then slip an assigning of gold value to those story elements.
Oh, I love those hooks. Get those hooks in me.
Give me those hooks.
Hey, give me those hooks. So you've been listening to No Plan, No Problem. My name is Matthew Perkins, and you can find my stuff over at matthewperkins.net.
And my name is Anto, and you can find my stuff across the internet at icarus-games.co.uk.
Thank you so much for listening. This has been real fun, especially with this new format. Now, the song that plays us out every week is called All Together by a band called House Apps. Thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Bye-bye.